age was a no-no in Los Angeles, unless you were under 22. Benny went on in a dogged, hectoring way that made the color rise to Neil's artificial hairline. The funniest stuff comes out of making people laugh at other people, from your banana peel skids up to Howard Stern. But you can't take that route anymore, not with anyone who isn't American. He shook his head wisely. Too risky. Remember the show when Sneezer dressed up like a Nazi for Halloween and had to go to the dentist? Got sued from here to East Jesus. The ADA got mad, the AJA got mad, even the skinheads got mad. He reflected a moment. Thing is, that was one of my best scripts. Helped a lot of kids get more comfortable at the dentist's office. Fins, Neil said as if he'd found dog shit on his shoe. So you think fins are funny? I told you, Mort said. I told him and Eddie both. Fins aren't funny. Strickland glanced at Mort like he'd look at snot. Neil, there's not enough of them to sue us, Benny said proudly. Neil smacked his forehead lightly. Oh, gosh, maybe you guys forgot. His eyes narrowed to bright blue slits and he screamed, Who gives a shit if we get sued? Suits are good for business. Every little runny-nosed brat out there is going to watch the show if the parents are squawking about it. You should be on your knees that we get sued. He looked over their heads and shook his head slowly. Jesus, he said flatly. He looked at them sideways, managing to smirk with his entire body. It was the worst Bruce Willis imitation Mort had ever seen. Now, listen up, Strickland said softly, barely moving his lips. Sneezer's a kid's cartoon show. You want to turn Sneezer into a guy with a horned helmet on his head and a smart-mouthed reindeer for a sidekick, you're going to get a lot more grief than a lawsuit. You're all going to get canned, because fins just aren't funny. He stepped away from the table and adjusted the French cuffs on his tailor-made 100% Pima cotton suit. You have 2 weeks to get funny. You take your fat asses and your even fatter heads on up to that retreat in... where the hell is it? Hemlock Falls. Hemlock Falls, Mort said. He stubbed out his Marlboro. The ashtray overflowed onto his stomach again. It's a 3-star hotel in upstate New York. Hemlock Falls. Came highly recommended by the studio, run by a pair of sisters, Meg and Sarah Quilliam. They're reopening after a bit of financial trouble, and we'll be the only guests there. We ought to get a lot of work done. Shut up, Mort, Neil said tiredly. I have business in Hemlock Falls myself, and you'll get a lot of work done because I'm going to be on your sorry asses from the minute you get there. We'll come up with a treatment you're gonna love. Eddie Schwartz jiggled his feet up and down, up and down. He drew his wrist under his nose and sniffed. Guaranteed, boss. You don't have a choice, do you? Neil asked coldly. He opened the Brazilian mahogany door to the outside hall. Because if you don't... He drew his forefinger across his throat a second time, gave them an amiable wink, and let the door slam behind him. What a jerk, Benny grumbled. That dentist show was a damn good way to get kids in the chair. He narrowed his watery gray eyes at Mort. You still filling that Evian bottle with gin? Give me a hit, will ya? Chapter 1. That cartoon's disgusting, Doreen flung over her shoulder as she marched in the back door to Quill's office. Her gray hair frizzed behind her ears like a cockatoo's comb. Doreen! Dina Muir stamped in right behind the elderly housekeeper. The receptionist's pretty face was flushed. Things are different from your day. Kids are much more sophisticated. Donald Duck just doesn't cut it anymore. They expect more, well, more sophistication. There was a determined set to her jaw. She looked like a cheerleader whose boyfriend had just scored for the opposing team. I'm not trying to defend it. I'm just trying to explain it. Doreen made a noise like a cranky tea kettle. Hey, guys, we're having a meeting in here. Sarah Quilliam got to her feet, just in case Doreen was carrying a concealed weapon. Mops and brooms were her armaments of choice. Quill didn't think the banker or the investor at her conference table would understand if the elderly housekeeper started whacking things. Doreen ignored the 4 other people around the conference table and addressed Quill as if she were the only person in the room. Baloney.